Welcome to the latest episode of the Forever Bristol City podcast. The final score at the Casam Stadium, City's first visit there. It finished Oxford United 1, City 1. A game full of talking points for different reasons. I'm delighted today to be joined by the Tovies, Mark and Dave, no relation. And joining me in the FBC studio is Neil Sutton. As I always do, boys, I'll start with you, Dave. Thoughts on the final whistle?
We got out. We got what we set out to achieve at the start of the game. I believe that we set up at the beginning to take a point if we could get it, and if we could get more and sneak it, we'd be happy with that. However, the journey that we took to get to that point gave us a lot of heart, a lot of bravery, and positive. It was full of fight. And watching City these days is just contradictory in everything. We were grown up in many of the ways we adapted with 10 men, yet we were lacking with nous in other areas of the game. We had some good management decisions, example, Armstrong. We had some bad ones, McCrorie all day. It wasn't the highest quality game, yet there was so much happening. A very strange day.
Okay, Mark, your thoughts?
Well, City's lineup was to show strength with the likes of McCrorie, a right-sided player playing left wing back, and Williams playing in a flat midfield too, with Jason Knight. Unfortunately, we exchanged strength for ill discipline and got a point despite two ludicrous tackles from McCrorie and Williams that really hampered our attempts to win the game, even with 10 men. We looked like we could sneak a win. Great defensive display from Luke McNally again. He was absolutely superb. A shout out for Sinclair Armstrong, won the ball high at the pitch that got our goal, but really City lost their heads. They didn't go there to win the game, and this is no plan for a team that want to try and get in the playoffs. I just don't understand it. That's
quite negative. How did you feel, Neil? You were quite vociferous. You were losing your rag a bit this week with the lack of transfer activity, and I'm not seeing you so irate. But what did you, before we talk about that, because it was driven by the lack of activity, what did you think at 2:30 or whenever it was when the game finished?
Well, it was a strange game, not least, of course, because we played with 9 men for the last 10 minutes. But I think generally, and of course, we're going to get on to the ref in due course, but it was a stop-start mishmash of two teams not really clinical in any sense, really, in it. And it was a scrappy, particularly the first half. But I think both teams were just, there was a sense of confusion in the game, I think, from the ref's performance that just didn't help the game flow at all. And it was sort of bitty within it. I don't think Oxford really, it's always difficult when you're playing against 10 men, obviously, in relation to it. But they didn't really play particularly expansive football. They weren't particularly great in themselves, and then I thought we were relatively comfortable with 10 men, and then Ross's one at the end, and if Earthy hadn't decided to run through Treacle on his one-on-one, then it could have been a bit different.
True. I mean, my view was the first half hour, it was scrappy. It was aimless. I mean, they didn't look that great, like so many of the sides that we've played. No. But we didn't look fluid. There was nothing there.
No, and I mean in the wide areas, Dembele and I'm going to say his name wrong. Plaqueta. Thank you.
Bless you.
He came cut in a few times. You could tell that we had players on that side that aren't left-footed with. And he had a little bit more space, and in the wide areas they had a little bit more space, but actually it didn't hurt us. No. They didn't hurt us, particularly in the first half.
No. Okay.
Yeah.
Dave, we made 5 changes. What did you think when you saw the look of the side, the shape, and we know we haven't got a recognised left-sided player. Well, we have in Hayden Roberts, but obviously the manager doesn't have confidence in him to play that left wing-back role. No Mehmeti in the starting lineup. What were your thoughts when you saw the team?
Seeing the team, the message was pretty clear. We're happy with the point today, and if we can sneak something extra through quality, we'll take it. If you look at players that had been removed, you've taken away Bird, you'd added Williams. You've added physicality, you've added a body, you've added a presence, you've made yourself more difficult to beat. You've changed Earthy for for Mehmeti. I understand in essence the sub, but again, Earthy, you're losing one of your biggest attacking qualities for something extra more in the middle, shall we say. In terms of Sykes, he has a certain role to play on the right, and for McCrorie at left wing back, I just think he was set up to fail from the beginning. Everything about today's performance with him was just off. He had a brief period where he was okay, but you could see all the bits coming from the start, and it's just not his fault.
Okay. Mark, you talked a little bit about the changes. Anything you want to add? The Oxford team, maybe looking at them. I mean, Brannigan was a player that we harboured desires of him joining us a couple of summers ago, maybe. But the team and the general shape of the side. Twine wide on the left, was he, or what? How did you see it?
Well, he was wider. He was on the left of the two tens, wasn't he? But I cannot understand why he picked Earthy ahead of Mehmeti. Earthy was just on the periphery. It didn't do bad when we went down to 10 men, but wasn't really in the game. And by the time he got a chance, his legs are gone. McCrorie on the left. Obviously, Manning just doesn't trust Hayden Roberts defensively to pick in there. Don't know what's happened to Elijah Morrison. Know he was ill recently. But the problem is if you play Knight and Williams, you lose your creativity. And that's the problem we had. We had no creativity in the first half behind Twine. So Twine was playing the ball down the channels to Wells, and he was getting a few bites to cherry, but little fair really, and getting easily beat into the ball. Twine fell on in the area the first half, trying to ring free kicks. There were just so many misplaced passes in the half hour before the sending off. Loose passes from Viner, midfield losing the ball easily. We're just turning over the ball, and I think that's why Williams went looking for it. He wanted to make his presence felt, and that was it. It was just there were just.
We'll come on to that first sending off.
It was a mess.
In a minute. I think we've done the teams. We know what it was. Just a few little facts to drop in here. That was Naki Wells' 200th appearance for us today. A lot resting on his shoulders as the solitary strike force.
I think when Naki leaves, whether it's at the end of the season or he has another season or whatever, I think we will look back on him and say at least we got a value for money.
I think so.
In terms of it, the transfer fee was a large one for us, but he's been a mainstay, and there's been various games over the years.
It's 5 years, so he's averaging his availability record is significant.
He's a very fit fitness-wise.
I thought you were going to say very fit.
Yeah, I knew what you guys saw your face. He keeps himself fit.
He keeps himself fit. He's 35 in the summer. Interesting that Oxford had only lost twice to us in the last 15 meetings, and we've never done the double against them. I can remember seeing them. They only got into the league in 1969. I can remember they gubbed it, or 68, played Bristol City for the first time in 69, and they beat us 4-0, and I went on a Bristol to Western crossover walk with school the next day, and playing in their side, if anybody can think, he ended up being a famous manager for
Ron Atkinson.
Very good from Mark there. Ron Atkinson. They beat us 4-0. But anyway, for us, no win in our last 8 games now, only 6 games, 6 goals scored. And Oxford, that's their 9th game undefeated. So as somebody said on the text feed here, getting a point away from home against a form team in the division, you can't criticise that really, can you? Let's get into the action. Dave, the first booking, clumsy by McCrorie, stupid, same thing really. What do you think?
It was clumsy, it was stupid. It's what happens when a player is out of position and is second guessing himself. You're 1 second off, you're 2 seconds off. This is high level football. He shouldn't be in that position. We know what McCrorie is. He's an active player. Some would say he's not always thinking. He's going in 2 directions. We like this about him. It's difficult to complain when he does these things, but all it takes is a slight out of position and you're 1 second off. You get really silly bookings like that. And actually, that was a decision that kind of went in our favour because Oxford were on the break and the referee pulled it back. So in a way, the booking was quite fortunate.
Mark, our first chance came on 4 minutes, and Mark Sykes, rumoured to be of interest to Stoke City. But that was a chance early on when he put in a pretty damn good cross, and Wells just couldn't get ahead on it. How did you see that one, Mark?
I thought that was terrific from Sykes. He was going for the byline. He was determined to get there. It's a great cross, but Mackie Wells just couldn't get enough of the header on it, and it went across the 6-yard box. You know, if it was somebody a bit more physical presence, but you know, it's just one of those things. But Sykes, to get in that position, I think he had 3 players around him, so I thought he did really well.
Yeah, similar to the cross, I think he put in a couple of those decent ones against Sheffield Wednesday away. Neil, we had another chance on 9 minutes. Keeper error, trying to play it out from the back. Should Earthy have put that one away? Never mind the one-on-one later on. I mean, Brown got in there, gave us our first corner. How did you see that?
Can I make a point about the McCrorie?
By all means.
I disagree with Dave on this. Sorry, Dave.
No.
He goes with his head. He goes with his head into that situation, and the guy's sort of backing in. If you're given a yellow card for that as a ref after 3 minutes, you're setting yourself up for the rest of the game, aren't you? Because then you're thinking, okay, that's the level of a yellow card. What's the level of a red card? Or what's the level of a red or yellow cards or whatever like that? And you're just... So I think he put more pressure on himself, Langford, in that situation by that first...
I think what Langford said, Neil, sorry to interrupt, was that he'd had a nibble at Kyoso before that. So I think he was saying, well, I've given you one chance. That wasn't a yellow card. The first time that he fouled Kyoso, and the second one he thought, you know, I'm going to stamp my authority. But then 2 minutes later, Will Volks put a high tackle into the thigh of a City player and didn't even get booked. So you know, there's no balance, is there?
Dave, do you want to come back on? You wanted to come back on what Neil's just said?
Yeah, it's not actually at Neil. I'm happy that Neil disagrees with me because that's the point, and we all see it differently. But there's a little point in the chat from CMB. Dave T is not a football expert. He isn't in a position to say what is right or wrong. I actually didn't say what was right or wrong. I simply gave my opinion. And if you disagree, I am happy to disagree. But I think you misunderstand me if you think I am the god of football, because I am really not. If you disagree, by all means, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, we're all.
Yeah, Dave isn't the god of football, and I'm not his acolyte either.
None of us are football experts. We're just football fans giving an opinion. So it's as simple as that. Back to the chance.
Earthy. Bad first touch from Earthy.
Yeah,
I felt. I mean, when the ball through there, good first touch doesn't give Brown. He was. He was not the
Kieran Brown,
in the world, is he? He's not the quickest in the world. I remember him down the gate last season in that 5-1 Carabao Cup game where we played it around him quite a bit. And just that bad first touch, and then he's away, and then he's having to make that movement towards the ball, gives him a chance to actually go across and make the tackle.
Do you think it was kind of where the pass came from, though? He's trying to take it out wide, and he's kind of underestimated just how quickly the defender's coming across. Because where else could he have where should he have taken his first touch? Should he have taken it closer? Should he have maybe hit it first time? It
was a heavy first touch for me, Dave. A heavy first touch, and then it gave Brown an opportunity to actually go away, because it's about a yard or two away from him, and then he's having to make it. So it's not as if he has a touch and he can hit it straight away.
It sort of came in behind him.
Yeah,
to his right,
had a touch, and then he's having to make a movement, which gives Brown the chance to actually go across with it. I mean, it's a strange thing with Earthy, and I'm sure we'll get to him in more detail. But he has an energy like a Duracell bunny across the pitch in that loping sort of style. But when you actually look at it, the impact he has on the game, really, he doesn't have an impact on the game. And that's
the game, to use the Gary Johnson terminology.
Affect the game, and that's his 5th start now. So he's getting opportunities.
Do you think that the tackle that came from that chance kind of made him go into his shell a bit? Because to get into that position, you're kind of bright, that one tackle, and he just seemed to go missing. Do you think it was like welcome to the Championship, and he just isn't used to that kind of physicality?
Well, obviously, Dave, I've coached sort of non-league wise with the badges. Sorry,
Expert.
I'm not an expert.
All right.
But what I would say is when he's going through, he had all the measure for me of a player that's thinking I'm going to get clattered any moment. And there was a bit of a fear factor when he was running through there.
All right.
For body language wise, the way I was reading his body language is like half expecting somebody to come through and actually do him and in his prime.
Again, not jumping forward, a little bit of that with the late chance in the 77th minute. Mark, how many Dembeles are there playing football, for goodness sake? Yeah, because, you know, the one who was playing wide on the left, he had a sort of created their sort of first chance after about 8 minutes, I think it was, when the commentator was saying both sides are being loose in possession. But how many Dembeles are there?
There are a lot.
Mark, you know this stuff. I'm
Literally.
terribly-
No, I
many,
know
Mark? How many?
I remember Sriki Dembele playing for Peterborough, and then of course he went to Bournemouth, didn't really make it there. So then he went to Oxford. I thought he looked, really good feet.
Yeah.
This Dembele, I know there's one I think went from Celtic to Barcelona. I think there's a few around.
Every
not
time
many
you
clubs
see-
in football, but a lot of Dembeles. But there you go.
Every time you see a Dembele, you have to look up their career trajectory to know which one it is that is.
I know, because
That's
they
like-
got the radar of
there
it.
used to be a lot of Dioufs, remember?
Yeah.
I think in the about 10, 15 years ago, it was like the rise of the Dembeles. It's
El
still-
Hadji of the spitter. One of them was a spitter, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Lee got a yellow from the referee for a foul. I've seen a still shot of that. That was straight into his leg. We're going to come on to the sending off in a minute. But Dave, before we went live, we were talking about sloppy play at the back. And on 22 minutes, Viner, no pressure, sloppy pass out of defence, straight to Plachetta, who brushes Williams off. And then Plachetta was starting to get a bit lively for them. But Zach isn't on his game at the moment, and everybody's saying, quite right too, that McNally is the first pick in that three these days, isn't he? But Dave, your thoughts on Zach at the moment?
It is frustrating, and there's been a few comments, if you have a look on social media, about how low his pass completion percentage is compared to a lot of other centre backs. But it's also the job that he's being asked to do. And my question would be, if you can see a player that is off form and is making a few errors, and a pitch like today, a pitch like Sheffield Wednesday, would you ask them to back themselves or keep taking the risk? Or would you ask them maybe to start focusing on in the channels? Because that pass in that moment, that wasn't the right pass. It wasn't on. There was no reason to take that. Something else, a different way. And for me, it's a player that's low on confidence, and to keep asking them to take those passes, it's a really, really risky thing to do.
All right. Somebody's just said, Benny's just said, shot me down. He said McNally was just as bad as passing today as Zach. What's your view on that and my comments on Zach?
Well, I know Dave Febbs with his analytics has made some comments on it, and there's been a few on X during the week with regards to his stats. He's very passive in the air for quite a large guy, Zach. He doesn't win enough headers, and physically. One that really annoyed me in the first half was when Dembele went through and there was a 50-50 ball and he lost out to Dembele about 5 minutes before he gave the ball, and he just went, God, Zach, come on, are you on it today? Are you not on it today? And then he obviously gave the ball away in relation to it. I think passing stats wise, he does like these long diagonals and all the rest of it, which maybe in some ways sort of
mitigates that.
Yeah, maybe the actual, if you looked at the type of passing he was doing and really drilled down into why his passing ratios are so low, it might be a bit more indicative, because Dickey and McNally are going to be different types of passes than Viner with his long diagonals and his longer balls.
And Dickey today, what did you think of him? Because we thought he's been a bit off. They weren't exactly tested, were they?
Harris was poor for them.
Yeah.
Really, I didn't see last game. Blackburn had Gay up front, and he was a unit, and he was physical, and he would be attacking and going straight for Zach. I think the measure for me of where we are as a defensive unit is when you look at the big forward for the opposition, and which which centre back are they going for? And you know that if they are going for certain centre backs, that's where they see our weak link.
Do you think Reiner's place in the side is at risk at the moment, based on what?
Well, I would say ultimately Atkinson, potentially, if he came back of those three, then Reiner is the one to drop out for Atkinson.
But equally, you could say if he switched the system, because you've got to bear in mind he started wanting to play a 4. You could play Tanner, Dickey, McNally, and then Roberts in his better position, which is left back, or is he a centre back? I don't know.
He's not a left back. He's not a left
no,
back.
he's not. All right. Well, no. Anyway, let's move on. The penalty. I'll come to you first, Mark.
The penalty?
Not the penalty. What am I talking about? The sending off.
No, you've forgotten, David. You've forgotten a moment. Their player's yellow card. You've forgotten their player.
Yeah.
Oh, I glazed over that. That was Lee, and Lee, which was 20 minutes before, wasn't it? On Williams, funnily enough. Yeah. Well, all right, Dave. What was that worthy of more than a yellow, in your opinion?
I thought it was a yellow card all day long. It wasn't even close to a red card. If you take the still frame, it looks horrific. The problem is it has the same amount of force in real time as the still frame. The ball is bouncing. He catches him high up, but it's just part of football, you know? For me, it's not a red card moment, and I think the referee got it right.
Okay. Mark, what did you think on that first booking then? When some people were saying Lee should have gone, what did you think?
I'm not sure really. I think the thing is, I think he was given the referee was giving him the benefit of the doubt, because before that, Volks had put his foot into one of our players' thighs. This was, I think this was after the sending off. So, you know, there was no equivalence really, was there? You know, there was no balance. No. So, yeah, right. I think you gave him the benefit of the doubt.
All right, let's get on to the sending off then, Neil. We're halfway into the game. Langford, first time he's refereed us this season. Well, I saw the stats: 55 red cards, 55 yellow cards, no reds. Today was going to be the day that play your cards right. He certainly did. Was that a sending off offence? And bearing in mind that for those of you who might criticise, these are our opinions. We're not football experts. There's no VAR.
You put out a disclaimer.
We can put ticker tape along the bottom here to say the views are those of humble supporters.
Of idiots. I would say it's one of those tackles whereby it's a 50-50 as to whether it's a red card. 50% of refs probably give it, 50% go yellow and you're on your last warning. For me, it was reckless. It could be seen as being unsafe, because he did
play the ball.
He played the ball, but there was a slight leap off the ground, and I think once you go in the air on a tackle, it always looks worse than what it actually is. And even though he plays the ball first, there's a slight leap in the air, and they think, and then it's a trading leg, isn't it? That said, the Oxford player straight up. He's not rolling around doing an Neymar on the ground or anything like that. But it didn't look good. And then what didn't look good as well, from my perspective, is Joe runs off smiling.
Oh, laughing. Yeah, I put that. I tweeted that.
And I just think the ref sort of looked at it and thought, there's a real intent there. Looks up and he sees
they were screaming at him, the Oxford players.
But it was Brannigan screaming at him, and Brannigan's a Scouser, and you put two Scousers in the middle like that, they're probably riding each other up at the end of the day. Yeah. But because Brannigan got a yellow as well. But for me, I think A, he didn't need to do it. I know we come to Mark. A, he didn't need to do it, and B, his reaction afterwards, sort of smiling and all the rest of it, is he sort of walked away.
Well, he ran away. He ran away.
Well, he got pushed away.
He got pushed away, but he was smirking.
But he was smirking a lot.
Mark, your comment on this?
Right, I think it needed cool heads at the time, because there were those two early bookings, and there was an undercurrent of an undercurrent of tension and lots of flying tackles. Just before the foul, Williams has his pocket picked by Dembele running towards the Oxford goal. So he loses control of the ball, and then he charges towards Volks and Brannigan, side by side, Now his foot does go down, the sole of his boot goes down towards the ball, and he takes it and catches him with his right leg, which tips him up, sends him flying. But it's an absolutely reckless challenge from a guy who's lost the ball. The red mist comes down. He totally lost his head. After those early challenges, the referees book 2 players, don't make stupid tackles like that. But like you said, why go off smirking about it, you know?
No.
Like he didn't care. It's just makes you look like a hothead. The referee had already said, "Look, I'm going to book anything I deem a bad foul," and he goes and does that. We didn't need to do it. We weren't playing well at the time. Why the hell do it?
No.
He's a complete.
And when he was at Wigan, his last season at Wigan before he came to us, and that was why we signed him, because we wanted this tough tackling midfielder. I think he got sent off.
It was man tackling. There's a difference between aggression and loss of control.
Oh, and stupid, and not in a competitive part of the field. No, I agree.
He put us down to 10 men in a scrappy game that we could have built our way into.
I think
All right, Dave, your thoughts on it? Red card?
Well, first of all, you have to, just to give you context, in the last few weeks, we've heard calls for Williams to be back in the side. And one of the quotes I've often heard is, he often leaves a bit on a player. He's more physical. Remember the tackle against West Ham, which he kind of got away with, and that extra
side Ben Riley, yeah.
Well, today we saw that. And on the first instinct, for me, it was a red card. Seeing it on a replay, somewhere between a yellow and a red. But I think the referee didn't get it wrong. If he would have given a yellow, okay. But given a red, okay. You know, it's somewhere in the middle of the two.
Dave, what happens if that's a Premiership game? Because they were quite adamant that VAR wouldn't get involved, right? But what happens if that is a Premiership game? You know, do they say to the ref, "I think you got that one wrong, pal"?
No,
or
in my opinion, not a chance. There's nothing that you can see there to say that's wrong. If you hear so many people talking about it, and some people say red, some people say not, they're not going to overturn it. They're going to go to referee's call, basically. And
you're absolutely right, Dave.
Decision.
Yeah, I agree with that. It was a reckless tackle. The referee's decision, I don't see him changing that, even though it wasn't his tackling foot. It was a reckless thing. I mean, and to be quite honest, deserved for a guy. I mean, it just needed cool heads at that time of the match. You know, 15 minutes from half time in a game, we hadn't started very well. We could build our way into, and it just changes the whole momentum.
You know what, Mark? I think you're right there, because although the first half hour prior to that sending off, it was disjointed and we weren't very good. Yeah, we didn't look anything like a side at the top 8, but then what sides do? Because I mean, West Brom lost at Plymouth today, didn't they? And their fans are probably having the same discussion. But the chances of us winning,
grumpy, I think they call it,
the chances of us winning were severely hampered by that piece of recklessness from Joe. You know, and if I was Liam Manning, I'd be giving him a bit of a talking to, saying, please don't do that again. Take one for the team in a one-on-one and get sent off, but not in their half when you're in a bit of a miffed state of mind because somebody's just beating you for pace. But there we go. Dave, you wanted to bring one final point in on the sending off?
No, I was just, from what you said, like the beginning, I don't think we were necessarily like really bad. Like when you said we started poorly, I think we kind of started as we set out to do. Keep it scrappy, keep it centralized, don't let them get a foot in the game. And it was almost by design. We'd kind of learnt our lesson from Sheffield Wednesday in trying to play football on a non-football pitch. And it was, you're not going to beat us today. And that's what made the sending off disappointing in a way, because I really don't think until that point Oxford actually offered that much.
Yeah. I don't think they did.
Into the game.
No, okay. Second half, we didn't have to wait the usual 15 minutes because Liam made a double substitute. Sorry, I got lip mics here, or little mics. I keep tapping that. Dave said, don't tackle with me. Don't tap me mic. So I'll take my hand away from my throat. We didn't have to wait till the 60th minute, Neil. Twine and Wells going off, Bird and Armstrong coming off. I got to say, comment of one fan, why do you take Twine off when if you get a free kick, you got a chance of getting back into the game? So why should he come off? And Wells, you know, your main goal scoring threat. I mean, Mehmeti didn't even get on the grass today. But those substitutions, those two going off, and the 2 that came on. Were you in agreement with that? Were you surprised at it? What did you think?
I was surprised, but then I've had a bit of reflection on it, and I can kind of understand. For everything about Earthy, and we'll talk about him no doubt a bit later on, what he does is he's going to chase, and he's going to chase, and he's going to chase, and he's going to harry, and all the rest of it. And are you going to get that with Twine? No, you're not. And then you've got Armstrong. Now, Armstrong, is he going to get you goals? Is he going to get you, any sort of assists or anything like that? No, but what he's going to do, he's going to get you up the pitch. He's going to give you an outlet. So if you're playing up top by himself, if you're playing a 5-3-1, which is what we've
that's what we went to.
Then putting him up and putting up a literal sort of battering ram at the top, he's just going to run left, run right, all the rest of it. And actually what we saw today was a pretty effective Armstrong performance.
I thought he had a good game.
Yeah, when he actually came on. So my initial reaction was, ugh. But actually, second half, it got us further up the pitch. And actually, in that situation, when you're playing with 10 men, I didn't mind it. And obviously, when we come to the goal later on that we'll talk about, the City goal, that is, Sykes has said, well, actually, that was Twine. That whole set piece was set up for Twine to take it, but he wasn't on the pitch.
Yeah, all right.
So that was a decision that they'd actually made to carry on with that set piece without Twine on the pitch.
Okay.
So,
they executed it. They executed it well. What are you laughing at, Mark?
It's one of the comments.
You're my Toby.
You are my Toby, my only Toby. You make me happy when skies are great. You'll never notice how much I love you. Don't turn into Ian Gay. I actually liked one of Ian's tweets during the game today.
That was very good. That's very good on Mr. Thompson.
Well done, Peter Thompson. Whoever you are. Talking about people, I got to give this a little mention. The Melanie said when she saw the Christmas card on my desk in the office, she said, you've got to give a mention to that guy. So this is Robert Franklin, who sent a Christmas card to my office, managed to track me down, could see where I was. Robert Franklin from Albuquerque, and he wrote me, he said, hi, David. Greetings from Albuquerque, New Mexico. I'm a couple of years older than you, and so I've enjoyed, or is it endured, the same city journey. Many thanks for the podcast. I watch them by way of YouTube. So Bob Franklin, thanks for your support. Thanks for listening. We don't appeal to everybody. You know who you are today, but I loved your little comment as well. But, what was it? Lincoln said, you can please some of the people all of the time, all of the people some of the time, but not all of the people all of the time. Right, Dave.
As we're doing shout outs, can I just give a shout out to Matthew Withers, who missed his first away game in a long, long time today. The Bristol Live writer and other podcaster. He had a knee operation this week and he couldn't go. So anybody who loves football, you can imagine how much he must have suffered missing a game today.
Yeah. Well, I hope you get well.
Feeling better soon, Matt.
Hope you get well soon, Matt. Hope you get well soon. Yeah, you don't fancy a Matty Taylor type move across here, do you? But that would be fun.
So you were on
anyway. Dave, sticking with you then, and I'll come to you as well, Mark. The double substitution at the start of the second half. Positive? Could it have maybe been 3 even?
Mark, you go first.
Yeah, I thought it. You needed another player in there to do something with the ball. When we got the ball out of the fence in Max Bird and Armstrong, if he runs the channels and does as he's told, down the middle of the pitch, not great. I thought he did very well. Probably one of his best performances in the City shirt. He was actually getting protected by the referee for a change. He runs across defenders and looks for free kicks, but once he gets his body across the ball, he's very difficult to beat. And I thought he did pretty well. It's quite a low bar to raise, really, because I still think obviously this is not the finished article. He's certainly not, but he did the job he was asked to do, and we worked the ball down the channels and we put pressure on Oxford. I thought that was good. Max Bird did a good job as well. So well done to both of them.
All right. Dave, you on the subs, could there have been an inclination maybe to bring 3 on and take McCrorie off? Because, he's on that yellow card, and Hayden Roberts, whilst he's not the best, but at least he is left-footed. Yeah, might there have been a temptation rather, to do that?
But on the 3, I was very happy to see Armstrong come on. I felt changes were needed. In a game like that with 10 men, you need a presence, you need pace, you need to offer a threat. So I was very happy to see that. Earthy staying on and Twine going off, I thought was curious. You know, you've got a man with experience that's been there, that's done it and knows this level, versus the guy that's learning his trade. I think you keep the guy that's you spent millions of pounds on to do a job in there and to do it well. In terms of McCrorie, he had to come off at some point. I don't think he played well today. He was with Paqueta. He kept getting past him time and again. That was their option behind the back. He was constantly out of position because he was second guessing himself. I really hope that's the last time we see him as a left wing back today, because he makes Roberts look good in that. It makes Roberts look good in that position, because it's just not good enough for that side as a defensive unit.
Okay. Well, in early second half action, Sykes had a shot saved. Yeah, so Sykes shaping up well. 57 minutes, Brown was in a good position, scuffed his shot. Rodriguez, Brown mishit and Rodriguez was there. Max did one of those saves that really is just doing his job because he was in the right place. But you first, Neil, the goal, goodness me. I mean, Max was getting...
Well, we would say as well, just before that goal, Max Bird on corners, I thought was actually a bit better than Twine today. I thought some of Twine corners weren't particularly great, but Max did a really nice corner in that Dickey got a header in.
Dickey as well, wasn't it? As well as the side shot. Yeah. So back to the goal. Yeah, good point. Back to the goal.
So the question with the goal is one of three things, isn't it? Has Max just completely misjudged it? Is he thinking that Dickey is going to kick it out for a corner? Is he thinking that their guy's going to get a touch on it? Or is it, as some people that are in the away end have said, got so much spin on it the way that he's done that it's just sort of swerved into the far corner? I don't know, but whatever. It was like one of those crosses that you get in from free kicks that goes past everybody, and the keeper's ball watching, and then it's behind you before you even get into the goal. Whichever, there's no angle, is there? Unfortunately, there's no camera angle from either behind it or in front of it that actually shows the trajectory of it. But my gut feeling is, I think he thought Dickey was going to actually kick it out. Yeah. I think there's a movement.
So you're not pinning that on Max.
I am, but not in a bad way.
Okay.
I'm saying that I think because either it's right in the corner and it's right in the corner, but I'm saying my gut feeling when I watched it was he thought Dickey was going to kick it out or at least get a touch on it across the ball coming across. And I think Dickey almost thinks Max is behind it. Max is slightly over, but Max is over to his right. Whereas I think Dickey is thinking, because it's behind him, that Max is in the centre, so that ball's coming straight into Max. So it was a curious sort of goal in a way where you've got a lot of people
trundled into the net.
But you've got a lot of people in that mix in the 6-yard box that seem to be looking at one another. A little bit, but there was where people were in the 6-yard box.
All right, Dave first, then you, Mark. Dave, on the goal.
Okay, so I think both of them are at fault, but for different reasons. Because the fact that Dickey left it, you only have to assume there was a lack of communication. It's the only reason he would leave it, because he's thinking, not hearing. And in that moment, Max has to say one of two things, keepers or away. Make your choice, pick your moment. But once you get past that, why is Dickey leaving it? If he's heard nothing, you put it as far away from the goal as you can and ask questions afterwards. I don't understand why he's left it if there's no call. If there is a call, then it's Max's ball. We don't really know if there was a call or not. Depending on that is whose fault it was. From what we can see, it looks like it was really both of their faults.
What about the cross, Dave? Should that have been, where's Viner in this? And
well, sometimes you get, I believe it came from a ricochet, and sometimes things are going to come into the box, and there's not a lot you can do about it. And in this situation, it's not like you can say it's a high quality cross. It's one that's just hit. I don't really think he's just hitting it in and hoping something's going to happen. It's not. It's one that we should have dealt with, and we've conceded by an error and not from their quality play.
I got to say, there's another comment on here.
Mr. Thompson's on fire today.
Peter
I reckon
Thompson,
there's some whiskey going on.
Yeah,
here.
Dave is a city. He wears a red and white hat. He hosts a podcast, and he's a very nice chap. He really hates the gas. He thinks they all smoke crack. He even gave that Ian Gay the finger and the sack. Well, Mark, you next on on the goal.
Well, the goal comes from two shots. Firstly, Kieran Brown, it's with his left foot, it's Viner. So he's at the front of the area, banks his back, and then it's played. There's another shot from Cameron Brannigan, who turns onto his right foot. That's blocked by Max Bird. The ball spins out to the left. Now, Greg Lee slices his left foot across it, so that's what gets the curve. But one of either Dickey or Max O'Leary's got to do something. Max O'Leary's on the right side of it, on our left, on the right side of the goal, and the ball just goes round him. It looks so soft. He should just be diving or doing something, because Harris is nowhere near. The defenders are at the front. Dickey's at the back. Viner and Bird had already repelled 2 attacks. The ball was just sliced out, so there's spin on. The ball was spinning towards Greg Lee, and he completes that by slicing the ball into the area. It's just a freak goal, but one of the two should try and block it. There should be a call somewhere.
Yeah,
Dave's absolutely right. There's got to be a call, mine or mine. One of the two's got to say mine.
Yeah, you take it. You take it.
Yeah, I've seen McNally block those all the time.
Dave,
but I mean, after what happened against Portsmouth, with that goal from Cannon Lang, when the winger just crossed it across the area, and they said thank you very much. He thought they'd have done something about it, but there you go again. Another bad.
I felt like the real pity of the goal was actually that we'd started the second half in a 5-3-1. Like, you're not going to break us down, and actually we'd started pretty well, and they were quite flustered because they were getting down the sides every now and again, but they weren't creating anything clear cut. And just in that 5 minutes, our intensity dropped off a bit. It was almost like we were trying to take a breather, ready for the second half of the second half. And a couple of mistakes, a couple of insecurities crept in, and the goal kind of manifested from our weakest moment. It kind of wasn't by accident that it came then.
And I'll be honest, at that point, because I like to mitigate my disappointment by betting on the opposition. So 0-0 at half time and down to 10 men. I put 10 quid on Oxford at 4-5. Right? I put 10 quid. Well, no, I did. I mean, I don't mind. It's like
chucking 10. Podcast host does that?
No. This is an outrage. You cannot.
I'm going to write to my MP.
Wow.
Anyway, so my 10 quid was looking like manifesting itself into 18.
You got back for 10 quid?
4-5, 18 quid. So 8 quid.
Would have made you feel good.
Well, I might have been able to afford a Charlie Brigham's or something like that. Yeah, but there we go.
Steve Bird says that Sinclair Armstrong traps the ball like Stella McCartney. Steve, I didn't know that you and Stella were an item, but thanks for letting us know.
Well, my wife, who's a season ticket holder, calls him the fridge.
Who?
Armstrong.
All right.
Refers to him as the fridge. So all of us in E32, he is the fridge with it, and he just runs and fucking things like that.
Well, he does.
He's just the fridge.
And the fridge won us a free kick.
He did.
On 64 minutes.
Just like last week.
Just like last week. Just like against Sheffield United. Somebody put on the feed earlier on.
Yeah.
And, the title of this week's episode is Pop Goes the Weasel, because I think there was the most well-executed free kick routine we've seen since May 2008, when I think it was Lewis Carey did the dummy run and Noble popped it in the playoff up at Selhurst Park, wasn't it?
No, it was Carey.
It was Carey who scored the goal.
Yes, Carey.
Carey who scored it. I knew he was involved. Showing my lack of knowledge.
No, that was 17 years ago.
It was 18 years ago, nearly.
2008.
17. God, I can't even add up now. Bloody hell.
17 years ago.
David started off in accountancy, everybody.
I did. I know. I ended up in recruitment. There we go. The goal, classy.
Wonderful free kick. If that was in the Premier League, they'd be showing that on highlights tonight. Because it's not just the dummy run by Earthy, then it's the dummy run by Knight, and then it's the first time shot by
Sykes.
Fantastic.
It was great, wasn't it?
It was great. And it was great to score a goal like that.
Yeah.
Because our goalkeeping coach is on set pieces.
Pat Mountain.
Which I just hold my head.
Pat Mountain's on Sound of the City, by the way.
Why a goalkeeping coach is on our corner and free kick routines is beyond me. But anyway, fair play to Pat. That works really, really well.
Somebody said it. David Hayward said sometimes you really need to see the same things. Dickie Dummit O'Leary for their goal. Yeah, Mark, your thoughts on the goal?
Yeah, George Earthy steps over the ball and Max Bird plays the ball across the box, supposedly tonight, who runs towards Brannigan, who's sort of looking up at the sky. And Sykes on the D, what a banger, top corner. It was absolutely great. What a free kick! What a free kick routine, and what a shot from Mark Sykes. He can shoot, but the finish was brilliant. You know, at a time you're thinking, how do we get back in the game? He won the free kick. Great pass by Max Bird down the channel to Armstrong. He wins the free kick in a good position, but the way we executed it, you know, Scott, who needs Scott Twine when you can do things like that?
Well, there you go, Dave. Your thoughts on that? Classic.
The first
Perfect.
one is Armstrong. That's 2 free kicks, 2 games, 2 goals. In terms of his performance all round, how many players do you know that come on at half time, get subbed before the end of the game, and you think, oh, they played pretty well? It doesn't happen very often for whatever reason. In terms of the goal itself, there is something about the way that Sykes hits a ball. You know, he placed that in the corner, and yet it goes in at speed. It goes in with dip, with precision.
Yeah,
It's now my favourite goal of the season. I know for a lot of people, it's still going to be Preston. And for all of our frustrations in certain moments of this season, we have actually scored a couple of really, really good goals this season. And this was one of them. It was a very, very nice free kick.
Yeah.
Dave, it was outside the area, which means it's a classic.
Dave, I'll ask you this, and I'll ask the same of Neil and Mark. Sykes has been rumoured to be of interest to Stoke City, and I think I read somewhere that they may have put a bid in, but it's been rejected, obviously. But if Stoke came back in, Mark Sykes is out of contract this summer, isn't he? But with a year option, yeah. If Stoke come in and say, let's say they've offered 600 and we've told them to do one. If Stoke come in on Monday morning and say, £1 million for Mark Sykes, looking at the current mindset of the board, which seems to be getting rid of players at the moment, Atkinson, McNally, and who's the other one that's gone out through the door on loan or left? Naismith. Atkinson, McNally, Atkinson, Naismith, and
Yeboah.
And Yeboah.
And back.
Tommy back, right?
And Knight the Bell.
Yeah, no. Who's
just in the January? 5 in the January.
Yeah. So they're trying to get the, but you know, you're not going to get an offer for Sykes of £1 million in the summer with that 1 year option exercise. Dave, would we sell him for £1 million?
Please no.
Do you think we would though? I mean, being cynical.
No, please look at the side. Look, Mehmeti has carried us so far this season, and he's had a few games where he's slightly off. Sykes is delivering opportunities to people. I have my reservations in this formation, whether it suits him. But the fact is, when he gets into a forward position, he looks dangerous time and again. We are close to the playoffs. If you have any goal for the playoffs, you don't get rid of your most attacking assets now. No.
Okay, you say no, we won't. Nick Hamblin, I just want to pick up on your point, Nick. You're talking about, David, all those are loans, not sales. No, absolutely right, but they're bodies off the payroll each week, yeah? And Atkinson, Naismith, and the other high wage earner, God, it's Fally, Maulu, that's saving conservatively those 3 players, yeah? That's probably saving between 30 and 40 grand a week, and for 20 weeks between now and the end of the season, probably a bit less than that, that's knocking £500,000 off our probably this year 20 million losses again for the year ending June 2025. Neil, do you think they might let Sykes go? If Stoke came in and said, here's £1 million?
There's the bigger picture that we said at the start with me being a bit vociferous on OTID this week. But I think realistically, whether there is some forward planning going into this new FFP that's coming in the next couple of years, because the Scott money drops off next year in relation to it. I don't know whether we're forward planning in the way that no other football club seems to be forward planning this January window. But for me, I agree with one of the posters there. I think CMB, I think he's right. I think Sykes is our best crosser of the ball there. He hits it in with pace, power on that side. And I think now he's back fit. You're playing him in a wide position. He's a threat.
All right.
He gets in a position. He's a good crosser, and he scores
All right.
goals.
You don't think we'd be tempted then?
I think a week or two ago, if they'd have done that, then he would have done. But
Right.
But I think though $1 million a year. I think the issue with Sykes. I think there's an issue with Sykes. Okay. Other people have mentioned it as well. That he's come from a low base at Oxford. His wage is not a high wage in the club itself, and he's obviously now a full international. And he's looking for some sort of wage increase, and that's not happening. So,
and are we going to exercise that option?
Well, that option is at his current wage. So the option year is at the current.
So
wage.
we might not exercise it. So to get £1 million, we won't. We've either got to give him a pay rise then.
Well,
the option would be
if you take that option year, he stays on his current contract.
We ain't going to be very happy with that, is he?
He's not going to be very happy at all with that
because it's restricting his ability to earn money. But he signed it at the time. All right, Mark, let me have your view. Straight yes or no on this. £1 million offer for Sykes at 4:00 on Monday afternoon. Would we take it?
I wouldn't take it. I think a lot.
I'm not asking you. I'm asking. Do you think? Because it's not in our decision. Do you think our illustrious owners that are trying to, answer the critics who say the pathway is blocked as well because Sykes and maybe allows Morrison to come on? It's £1 million. What do you think?
No, because if we do it, it'll show we've got no plans this season, although it looks like we're doing it, and it'll finish a lot of fans' plans to renew their season tickets. It just showed the clubs were going backwards. So no.
Okay, I just want to discuss. We got two more instances to discuss in the game. You first, Dave Tovey. Oxford offered very little, I thought, after we got back in the game at 1-1. Yeah, I've got nothing. No,
I think that's to our credit in the way.
I totally agree. It's to our credit, and we looked as though we were doing okay, more than okay, and we should have taken the lead on 77 minutes with Earthy, shouldn't we? I mean, because it was a good ball out. Linesman's flag stayed down. Yeah. Did he have anybody with him? I'm just trying to picture it in my mind. I haven't seen it through a game, but he screwed that up, and that was worse than his error in the first half, in my view.
Part of me wants to say at that moment he was a bit like a rabbit in headlights, in on goal, and he just absolutely panicked and sort of scored.
And can I just say, Dave, he could have been a rabbit in headlights because the number of cars behind that goal facing him.
At the same time, how many times has he played 90 minutes this season? Not many. This is in the 18th minute, down to 10 men. That's a lot of running that you've done. And I think there is a justification to say that he just ran out of legs. His legs just went, and he wasn't able to take the chance because he just lost control of his legs, basically. So it's frustrating, but it's understandable.
All right. Mark, should he have done better?
Yeah, I think he just runs out of legs. It's played out well on the edge of the area, and it's shielded well by Sinclair Armstrong back to Jason Knight, and he plays the ball over the top. Earthy's in a great position. He takes the ball to the left, and I think he thinks about hitting it with his left foot, but pokes it with his right towards the goal. And by the time he makes his decision, Kieran Brown's come across him and nicked the ball, like he did in the first. Cameron Brannigan does it. He's just too slow. It looks like he's wading through treacle, and then he sits down behind the goal, and it's almost like his batteries are run out. He's like a toy that's slow. He needs to go back on the shelf. It's quite a sad way to end the game, really. But he was on the periphery most of the time, and that was it.
What do you think, Neil?
Well, I think Manning didn't trust Mehmeti in that situation in that game, or else Mehmeti would have come on for Earthy, and then perhaps it's a different story with that ball over the top. It's always difficult because who knows whether Mehmeti would have found himself in that position. But for me, it's a combination of his legs going down, caught in the headlights, plus the fact that to not get a shot away. I'm sorry, he's kind
of... Was it for first touch or for second touch?
No, even if you're streaming towards goal, even if you're like, oh God, I'm absolutely knackered, just get the shot off. do something in that situation. I think to run down and just to have
He didn't do anything.
Brannigan is not quick.
No.
So I can only imagine that he must have been streaming at like Fally speed.
Yeah.
Really, that one speed that he has or whatever like that to allow Brannigan to actually do. But I think in that situation, not to get a shot off in any shape or whatever, I think is a bit reprehensible.
Okay.
Isn't that the frustration? Because if you go back to the moment the ball is played through, it's almost impossible to envisage anything but a shot is coming. And the fact that he doesn't get one off, you're asking yourself, how do we get to there? And the only reason you can really come up with it, that the legs have not just gone, but completely gone. And if you remember against Sheffield Wednesday, we took Sykes off with 7 minutes to go when we were attacking because he was blowing. Yeah. If that's the case there, that he couldn't do 7 minutes, then obviously in this situation, your legs have literally gone in the worst possible moment. And I think he was pretty much subbed straight after as well. So I agree. It's like in that moment, instinctively, it was like, oh my God, he's completely bottled that. But then when you take
he turns back inside on his right.
Yeah.
And by then, Brannigan's run right across him and nicked the ball. It was a bad decision, but yeah, he was caught in the headlights. I mean, I think the only thing he could have done, the player come down, is to toe punt it, basically goalwards. At least he'd have got a strike on goal, which would have saved his embarrassment.
Well, I want to look at that one. I want to look at that one again. And was it Nick Hamblin said Earthy clearly had no intention to shoot. He was trying desperate to pass. I don't know to who, but there we go. That was the chance to win it. And as I say, we didn't. We hung on to the point. But Dave, we did our level best to let Oxford have a little bit more of an exciting closing stages of the game, because Ross got sent off, and it's a yellow card for what he did. No question of that. Second of the game. Foolish challenge, Dave?
Extremely foolish. It's like, this is a moment where you need to keep your heads. And I've heard, I've seen bits and pieces that he's already committed to it. No, you don't need to be committed in that moment. However, he doesn't need to be on the pitch in that moment. It's near the end of the game. We've only made 4 subs. If ever there was a moment to bring Roberts on, that's it right there. He shouldn't have been on the pitch. You're on a yellow card. You know how this game is going. McCrorie shouldn't have been on the pitch in that moment. But yes, it was an awful challenge.
All right, Mark, hand up, your comment.
He's on the left flank and he wins the ball from Turvest, but it goes away from him. Brown's already on the floor. They're both on the floor, but he goes over with his right foot, and it's just ludicrous. Mm-hmm. All he's got to do is stand up and just stop him from playing the ball, Kieran Brown. He doesn't need to make that challenge. He's going towards the Oxford goal. So he's not defending his own goal. He's won the ball from Turvest on the left-hand side with his left foot, and then he goes and makes a challenge against Brown with his right foot. It's just another reckless challenge. Yeah. And where we could, through stealth, we were looking just to get field position in the corners, win free kicks, slow the game down, and we give ourselves 8 minutes of problems by another player getting sent off. So that's Williams missing for 3 and him missing for 1. Idiot.
Can I just point out something? My favourite contributor, CMB, has just put Dave T completely forgetting Robert's contribution as a sub has cost us goals in numerous occasions. Yes, I agree. That's the price that we pay when we don't get another left wing back in to do the job.
Yeah. But we got a good enough squad. He's happy with the squad, and Liam Manning.
No, Morrison.
That's the hostage. Liam Manning speaking there.
Morrison can easily play there. That's the point. You need to move it in that position, and McCrorie shouldn't be on the pitch. I agree. Roberts is not good enough for that position, but those are the cards that we have.
Two things I want to ask Neil, and we haven't got time to ask you guys the same question. But getting back to the Sykes situation, because we've got you that could come up. We're actually playing Sykes, as this. If Sykes goes, you could come back into contention, playing that wide attacking role, couldn't he? Or do you think you is not going to be here next season?
Oh, there's a question. Right. Part of me thinks that Yu's not here next year.
Yeah.
Part of me thinks, that option to pick up his permanent contract.
It's not going to happen.
It's a commitment, isn't it? you're there and you've already said, well, Farley's developing, he's brilliant, and all the rest, and then he goes through a tough period, out on loan. You've got you here, and you're like, he's played 16 months and he hasn't quite got this. It's a risk, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a risk with him as to whether or not to make that permanent.
All right.
And I think if there's a loan, and there's quite a few comings and goings, I think, in the summer, realistically, particularly in the forward areas, then it's a risk of giving a big chunk, whatever that chunk is, to you as a signing.
All right. How about this?
Particularly with Stokes.
How about this? And I'll ask the same of Dave and Mark Tovey. Then we're going to come on to the transfer window or lack of. Right. Somebody's pointed out here that Stokes has scored again for Cambridge. Right. You might not know the answer. The other two guys might. Do we have a recall on Stokes?
In the January window?
Yep.
I think we normally factor it in.
Could we not bring Stokes? Could we not bring Stokes back and let Earthy go, and give Stokes those minutes in our team?
I think if
because he's blossoming. I've been reading the comments on him up at Cambridge. He's doing really, really well.
Yeah, great goal today. Missed the penalty
today.
Yeah,
scored one last week though, penalty.
Yeah,
yeah,
and set up one last week. I mean, he's coming back into form. He's a key player for Cambridge at the moment. It's a risk because he's developing particularly well at Cambridge. If you bring him back now, is he just going to be on the bench and you're just going to, stupefy him to a certain degree and that development?
But wouldn't it be better, because Earthy's been on the bench a lot of the time? Yeah, I know he got given minutes today. Well, so why not bring? If Earthy's a fringe player, right? He has been thus far. I know he started today. If Earthy's a fringe player, why not sort of let him go and have our own player who's had 30 games to develop at League One level?
I think you've got to think in a bigger scheme of things with the Earthy loan now. You've gone to a Premiership club, and we've had Premiership loans from the bigger clubs, and they've not worked out, and then we've sent them back and probably burnt a bit of our bridges there. We've taken Earthy on, and West Ham really rate Earthy, and he's here with us, and we have said to them, he will be getting game time. We will develop him and all the rest of it. If we jettison him back to West Ham are going to, the word is out there that I know, Dave, but then it starts shutting it down to a certain degree.
But we've not liked loan players for 4 or 5 years. All right, I'm going to ask you two guys that question. Dave, if we could get Stokes back, why not? And develop him now.
He's doing his thing for the season. There's no need to pull him back right now. He's getting rave reviews. He's building his career. I understand what you're saying. I just think that he deserves to play out that season where he is right now.
Fair enough. Mark, do you agree with Dave?
Yeah, I don't think Earthy's made a great impact. But remember, Stokes has come back from a recent injury as well. So he's looking to resurrect his loan spell at Cambridge, doing a decent job, but there's still a big difference between League One and the Championship. I think we expected more from Earthy. I think he's more of an impact sub than starting the games. I am thinking he's been awful, but I think he would have expected to get a goal or two.
He has been disappointing, and I've been an advocate for him being given minutes. And, I'm not sitting here thinking, after what I've seen, say, on and off over the last few games.
Compare it. I think I don't know, Stokes, is he in this? Is this position the same anyway? I don't know. Earthy's a number 10. What position does Stokes play in midfield?
A 10. Yeah. Dave said, and Neil's just shown me his goal today.
Cracking goal against Wickham. Cracking goal from outside the area and
curled it in. There we go. Dave, you talk. Go on, far away, Dave. You wanted to raise a point.
I think that we need to talk about the referee today before we miss the point. And I'm going to start, and then you can all tell me why I'm completely wrong. Okay? I think that today, overall, the referee wasn't great. However, the 3 main decisions for red cards, I think he got them all right. Second point, we often say about, it's a home crowd, they're on his back. In my opinion, the Oxford crowd did what they're supposed to do. And the second point, in every game that we see, all you see is players trying to con referees, surrounding them for the slightest touch. And then we get all angry when it works. As in their players one, our players were straight onto the referee. For Williams one, the players were straight onto the referee. Maybe if players grew up a bit and actually played a game of football, we wouldn't be so focused on how the referee was, because he might be the result of this. But the problem is a lot of what you see on the pitch is like, really, come on. I don't think he was as terrible as we're making out, but he did have a poor game.
He did. No doubt about that. No doubt about that. All right. I'll stick with you, Dave. Well, no, before I do that, I'll just say our next podcast is the Swansea game, which is at 12 o'clock on Sunday. So we'll do that next Sunday at either 5 or 6 o'clock. That'll be our review of Swansea City at home, 12 o'clock kickoff at Ashton Gate. The window, Mark, it shuts at 11 o'clock on Monday. Dave Fev's just listed everybody that had been bought and loaned or whatever in this window. Quite a bit of activity, some clubs splashing the cash, but a lot of movement where you think, well, we're moaning about our lack of activity, but Dave was posing the question, how many of those many moves that have taken place, only us and Leeds not having any movement at all, how many of those moves will be successful? And maybe, just maybe, we're doing the right thing by not getting the checkbook out, be it for loans or permanent. What do you think, Mark?
Well, it's a seller's market, January. So, the selling club's in a great position because, that means the prices are inflated because teams, they want to move on, either rescue their season like Luton have got a bit of cash from the Premier League, or are looking upwards. So it's a bit of a lottery really, and they don't always work out. Whether we've actually looked to loan players in, I mean, we do need to improve. We need a new striker, possibly another midfielder or left wing back. This team isn't good enough to get in the top six based on the squad that we've got, despite what Ian Manning says. But the club just do not seem like they want to spend any money, and that does get into the fans' head because of our position in the league. People are going to think, well, you're only 3 or 4 points away from the playoffs. Why don't we spend some money? Show a bit of courage, a bit of desire to get up there and improve the team. But it's a seller's market, so it's very difficult.
Dave, your thoughts on the window so far?
There's been a window. We haven't done anything, have we? We're basically. I get the reasoning why we've sent players out on loan, or we've tried to reduce a bit of the wage bill. If you actually have a look at the bench today, if you go through who was on the bench today, it looks as follows. You've got, where are we?
I've got it here, Dave. Got to shout it out. Badgett, McGuane, Roberts, Tanner, Mehmeti, Bell, Bird, Hirakawa, Armstrong. Dave.
Where do you see the weak link there? For me, the weak link is where it's always been, is in the wing back positions. But that's because we recruited for a different formation. You change the formation, that problem probably goes away. Are they going to go out and get a striker? History says no. I think the issue that they have is that the perception is not a good one. If you are seen to be making a go for it, fans can forgive an element of incompetence. When you don't even move your fingers, the knives are out if it goes wrong. And that's the risk that they're taking.
Yeah.
Where's the ambition, basically? That's it.
Wow.
That's what people are going to say. Where is your ambition? Whether right or wrong, that's what fans are going to say.
It's a question, isn't it? Because if you don't make a move, you're backing what you've got, and people will look back and say, that's where you could have made a move. Whereas when you do make a move, at the very least, you can say, well, you had a go. And that's what we watch football for. We don't watch football to say, you know what, we're just going to see what we have. No, you watch football for the romance, the bravery. And I don't think we're showing it in the window, even though I mean, get arguments.
If you look at it purely from a cash point of view, and somebody tell me whether I should go higher or lower, but if you take out, let's take a 20-week window that we're in now, between now and the end of the season, and by that I mean the playoffs, it takes it to the end of May, right? So in the past few weeks, we've offloaded in wages Fally, Naismith and Atkinson. Collective wages of those three, well, I'll ask each of you, what do you think the aggregate wage of those three is, Neil? Those three, because they're gone.
The aggregate average.
No, what's the total saving of those three going?
Well, it's speculative, but I would say somewhere in the region of about 35,000.
35 grand. Dave, higher or lower?
Higher.
You say 40. Yeah?
Probably something like that, yeah.
40. Mark, higher or lower?
I'd say around the 40,000 mark as well. Yeah.
Okay. 40 grand a week. So we've saved, for 20 weeks, we've saved 800,000 in wages, right? Now,
I don't think that's true though, because
Why?
Because I don't think that the other club will be paying their full wages.
No.
Really?
No,
Well, we don't.
All right, well,
I don't-
let's take it. Let's take it
we
down.
Well, we can only expect. We can only.
Let's take it down to 30 then. Let's take it 30 net. That's
Well,
600,000.
where have they gone? Portsmouth and Luton, and
Sturm Graz.
Sturm Graz were reported, or it's been rumoured that they are paying the whole of Fadi Mayulu's wages. And wouldn't you expect Luton and Portsmouth to be paying the whole of Atkinson and Naismith's wages? Luton, you would.
Yeah. All right, let's take it down to 30. So that's 600,000 that has been saved. Times 20 weeks, right? Times 20 weeks. That's right, that's 600,000 has been saved. And getting back to your point, Dave, about gambling, we do not want to go out and buy a striker or a defender and pay for them now. We don't want to take a gamble now, because if we go out and buy somebody now for £1 million, right? It's not £1 million because their wages are probably going to be, let's say, 10 grand a week for anybody, or 8 grand a week. That's 8 grand a week for 3 years.
Dave,
right?
the big question. I mean, first of all, those three, getting rid of them, what's been their like net contribution to the squad this season? The answer
Square root of F4. No, exactly.
If you were to bring in, say, a striker, do you think that striker might be the difference between finishing in the playoffs?
Well, the point I'm making, Dave, is about money and gambling, because at the moment we've saved 600, right? Let's say we go, and I know there are loan fees to pay as well, but let's say we did get, well, West Brom has signed that lad from Tottenham this week on loan to the end of the season, Lancashire, I think he's called, or something like that. Yeah. But the cost to us, right, we've saved 600. Let's say Tottenham had charged us £500,000 as a loan fee. Yeah, we could have gone out and paid this lad 30 grand a week, right, for those 20 weeks, 600,000. We could have gambled between 600,000 and £1 million just to bring one player in that might have made a difference. Yeah? And we're not saddled with them if they do turn out to be a flop come the end of the season. Because when we sign players, it's for 3 years.
I think my point is, taken away from the finances for one moment, it's the words and the rhetoric that's come out from the club this month. And by the club, I mean Manning, because everyone else is completely absent without leave, aren't they?
Yeah.
Even Lansdowne comes onto the pitch with Jackie last week to give him his legacy. John, great to have you here. Any comment for the fans? Any comment on it? No, nothing.
Nothing.
Tinian, we could do a whole podcast on the Tinian, what's going on there. The point is, Manning comes out in a week and says, I think we've got depth everywhere. But he's playing the right wing back at left wing back. He doesn't trust the left wing back.
And he's not playing the formation that he recruited for.
And then he turns around and goes, I've got some wonderful youngsters coming through. Doesn't put any of them on the bench. So does he really rate them? Doesn't he really rate them? The words aren't backed up by actions at the end of the day. Now, if you're playing in this formation, I don't think necessarily a centre forward for me, and we spoke about this a few weeks ago on one of the podcasts, that I think the wing back positions, that is quite clearly where we need an uplift in the wing back positions, because I think our centre three are pretty decent. And I think a combination of Bird, Knight, McGuane and Williams in the centre, that's pretty decent. Now, up top, with Fally going, that we didn't have a few weeks ago, but with Fally going, we are a little bit exposed if Wells goes down for the rest of the season. But the here and now, he's saying Pring's out for pretty much most of February. So that you're going into a situation the next month
without a recognised player. So that gets back to the point I was going to arrive at. If I was given a choice now of spending £1 million on a lone striker, be that a Premiership striker, or going to get a specialist left back that might cost £2 million that we might sign in the summer,
Left wing
Yeah.
back.
Anyway, I would, given a choice of a striker or a specialist left back, left wing back, I would be going for the wing back or left back.
But the thing is with it, and Dave and Mark have already illuminated to it in my posts on YouTube where I apologised to people and said I hope I don't really lose the plot on the podcast.
We haven't.
Which I haven't. But I think with it, it's just perception, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, what are we happy with as a club? Where are we going in a club this season? Arguably, and again, another thing I put in the thing is, do I know anything about football? Because there's me watching Manning's football, which is just mind-numbing at times. Yeah, he's got the highest win ratio of any manager at home in the Championship.
Yeah.
So do we actually know? Okay, so we say that the only person from the club who's actually come out and mentioned the word playoffs is Joe Williams.
Yeah.
Manning doesn't. Manning doesn't stand there in his
No,
presses
he's
and
just
goes,
happy. He's just happy to get one or two incremental places in the division, and he'll move to the best offer that comes along next season.
So what?
All right, let me let Dave come in because we need to wrap up in a second. Dave, are we where we are in spite of Manning or because of him? And where we are, 3 points off the playoffs, right? And interestingly, 8 of the starters, and bearing in mind Manning's been allowed to sign 10 or 11 players, right? Different abilities, not all first-team players. 8 of the starting lineup that started today were here before he was, right? So are we where we are in spite of or because of Manning? Has he really coached us and made us into something that is, whichever way you look at it, 2 points off the playoffs, 3 points off the playoffs?
If you'd ask most people at the start of the season, would they take this position? They would say yes.
Yep.
The problem is that because we're meeting that expectation implies that Manning is doing a good job. In terms of the football we are seeing, I'm not seeing it. I don't say that every game is amazing, but we are winning games. Now, the question is it playing scruffy, playing poorly, but nipping points, taking wins where it wasn't the best of game? Is that by design? Because what I see is a squad that could actually be achieving more. Right now, there is an argument that squad is good enough for 5th or 6th place. And I actually think that a lot of the bits with Manning in-game management, we don't see a lot of it. And I think that actually, of all the squad and of Manning is the one most under par of everybody there. He hasn't done a bad job. I'm not saying that. No. I just don't think that squad is actually as high as it could be, even though it's meeting expectations.
That's a very good point. Very good point, Dave. Mark, do you endorse what Dave has just said? This is your final point, by the way. That was your final point, Dave. Mark?
I think obviously we're where we are because of Manning, and his own record's much better than his predecessors have been. But he was involved in the recruitment. The forwards, the 2 forwards we got in weren't good enough. He changed the formation during the season, and we're still playing in moments. We haven't got any control of games. We're doing okay. Scott Twine is disappointed a bit because he still gets knocked over too easily. So we should be doing better. But the problems are when you have to see that our line is being led by a 34-year-old who would have been a 3rd choice striker at the start of the season. That's where the failing is. The club's got no ambition, and we're a very nice club. The manager's very nice. Everything's very nice, but we're treading water like we normally do, and that's the way things are.
Final point from you, Neil. I mean, Mark has just said we play in moments. I mean, if you think moments like, I think the 4th goal against Millwall, the goal against Preston, the free kick today, moments. Yeah.
The goal, Twine's goal against Luton.
Yeah. So moments.
Twine's.
So we're accused on this podcast of being negative. We said last week, the 4 of us, we're not feeling the love.
I don't think anybody. For me, Manning, the team that Manning's puts out looks like a training ground pitch. He wants the team to play on the pitch like they play in the training ground. And a game of football is not like a training exercise, but he loves the beauty of the game. He loves his, they've got the practice pictures up at the HPC with the arrows on it. Yeah. And all the rest of it to show where the ball goes, and it's the individuality. What we've seen in certain games with Manning before is the players on the pitch throw that out the window and say, we're going to play a different way and we're going to do it this way and we're going to do that. I don't see his in-game management. I don't, You know, you only have to look at the fact that we haven't come back from a losing position to win a game since Oxford at home in September. So there's countless opportunities where we are in games, but we don't push on. We're not 1-0 down, we get it back to 1-1. Right, do we go on and win the game? No, we didn't. You know, and then we look at the late goals that we've conceded at Sunderland, at Plymouth.
Yeah.
Home against Sheffield
We've
United.
conceded away
All
from home. So I just think his in-game management, I think he's too structured, he's too rigid. But with inside it, I completely agree with Dave's point that I think the players are capable of more. And I think with inside it, if there was a coach with these players, that's not a anti-Manning with it. I just think he could express himself a little bit more and be a little bit more risk-taking. Because if we risk-take in this situation, the difference between 1 point to 3 is massive at the end of the season. When we fall short by 4 or 5 points, we will look back at games where we haven't taken that risk because we're worried about losing a game. And in his mind, I think he would rather draw a game than lose a game than go on to win a game. And that's where Manning's mindset is.
That is interesting.
Agreed.
All right. Yeah, I think we're done. I just want to say one thing. 50th anniversary today. We love an anniversary at Bristol City. It was a good find. Somebody put it on X. It's 50th anniversary when Donny Gillies scored in injury time at Old Trafford in 1975. That was United's only season at our level, set up by Keith Fear. And somebody found a little extract. It was obviously from Granada TV, because I think it was Gerald Sinstadt introducing it, talking about City were actually at Blackpool the following week, but they went back to show City's goal up there. So we love celebrating a win. So that gave City the double.
David, he told me when we did the Spirit of 76 do, and he went there with a lot of the ex-players in 2011. He did it in front of the Stratford end, so they were swarming towards him. How did you feel when you were putting that in, Donny? I was shitting myself, he said.
Yeah. There we go. Nigel Mackay, Hogg plays different football to Manning. I think in those 2 games that Chris Hogg was in charge, I did notice something that was a little bit different, but that's another story. All right, everybody, those of you that have watched on Saturday evening, thank you for that. And those of you that listened during the week, thank you for that as well. Mark and Dave Tovey, thanks for your contribution. Neil, thanks for yours. Everybody, goodbye and have a great week. All the best. Bye-bye.
Right.